Hi readers, welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, Lee here, and welcome to my weekend books. I missed last week because it was the second to last week in my first course for my master's degree program, and I was just mentally exhausted and I didn't have the stamina to do a weekend books last week. Also, I didn't do any reading other than school reading. And that is probably how it's going to continue for the rest of this year, I guess. So, big news, I finished my course. I took my final exam Saturday morning, had it finished up by 10:30. Now, let the chips fall where they may. But the funny thing is that immediately afterward, I felt free. I felt like a weight lifted off of me. But then I was like, now what do I do? Because I have 2 weeks before the next course starts. So today, in addition to chores, which I was way behind on, I went online and did a little pre-reading for my next course. And I guess that's just how it's going to be. I found it difficult to focus on pleasure reading. I think it's just my brain had too much going on, and so I also found it difficult to focus on TV, so I couldn't even, not sure how to relax now moving forward. Yesterday, Saturday, after I finished my test, I took myself out for a book haul at the local used bookstore. They just moved like less than 5 minutes from my house, so I can't wait to share my haul with you. But I picked up Matterhorn by Karl Marlantes, and I'm not sure I'm going to continue with it. I got that much reading done yesterday, but again, I think I'm just mentally exhausted from the stress of school and stuff, so I can't even focus on fiction reading. So I think what I'll do going forward is discuss the readings that I've done, or maybe some of my posts, my discussion posts that I have to do, because those require reading as well, and just stay away from fiction for a while, not try to force it. But are you ready for the book haul? This is all World War II. Matterhorn is the only fiction book that I picked up. I may come back to it later. I think I was just tired, like I said, mentally exhausted. But I picked up, we'll start with Overlord, D-Day and the Battle for Normandy by Max Hastings. Now, I was looking for books by authors I knew at the used bookstore. This is the only one by an author I already knew of and had books by him. So, on June 6th, 1944, American and British troops staged the greatest amphibious landing in history to begin Operation Overlord, the battle to liberate Europe from the scourge of the Third Reich. With gut-wrenching realism and immediacy, Sir Max Hastings reveals the terrible human cost that this battle enacted. Moving beyond the storming of Omaha Beach and D-Day, Hastings explores the Allies' push inward, with many British and American infantry units suffering nearly 100% casualties during the course of that awful summer. Far from a gauzy, romanticized remembrance, Hastings details a grueling 10-week battle to overpower the superbly trained, geographically entrenched German Wehrmacht. Uncompromising and powerful in its depiction of wartime, this is the definitive book on D-Day and the Battle of Normandy, and I am sure I will refer to this at some point in my classes. So, all the rest of these, one of them looks familiar. I think I might already have a copy somewhere, but I couldn't find it in my app. But others, I did not, well, you'll see. Okay, the next one is Eagle Against the Sun, The American War with Japan. I'm looking forward to this. This is written by Ronald H. Spector. New York Times calls it the best one-volume history of that complex conflict. No other presents as balanced a view, you can tell I haven't done this in a couple weeks, or provides such terse and searching analyses not only of the great battles, but of half-forgotten aspects, such as the impact of blacks and female participants on the services. Huh. Interesting. I did not read that. When I picked up the book, I didn't read that on the back. That blurb. This looks fascinating. Next up, Dr. Goebbels, His Life and Death. Again, I figured, this is by Roger Manvell and Heinrich Frankl. I figured this would be a good resource for later on. It references Hitler's Table Talk, which I have. Joseph Goebbels was possibly the most dangerous and intelligent member of the Nazi hierarchy, not excluding Hitler himself. Without Goebbels' flair for propaganda and spectacular organization, the Führer might never have come to power. Goebbels' practical and intuitive understanding of the instruments of public enlightenment enabled Hitler to build and maintain his dictatorship. As the founder of the Reich Chamber of Culture, the Gauleiter, I don't know how to pronounce that word, of Berlin, and the architect of the complex machinery of modern totalitarianism propaganda, Goebbels can be considered one of the most significantly evil and pretentious figures of the 20th century. This charts the full trajectory of his career, showing him at the apex of his power, a master of oratory, a brilliant and cynical showman, and a ruthless administrator. This book also portrays the man at the end, in the Berlin bunker, the most devoted of the Führer's henchmen, committing the last gesture of propaganda of which he was capable, the sacrifice of his life and that of his wife and 6 children. This has got pictures in it, too. Anyway, definitely going to use this as a reference. Glad I found it. I would not have looked for that. I'm going to actually save 2 for last. So this is actually, the cover is upside down. When you open the book, I'll fix it later. One of the subjects that we briefly touched on in this first course that I took was ordinary people and their participation in the Holocaust. And that is what this book is about. Hitler's Willing Executioners, Ordinary Germans in the Holocaust, by Daniel Jonah Goldhagen. I need to slow down and do more practicing on this. This is a long one. Anyway, he shows that in this book, the author is going to show that many beliefs about the killers are fallacies. They were not primarily SS men or Nazi party members, but perfectly ordinary Germans from all walks of life. And this actually applies in the conquered territories, not necessarily Germans, but locals in those territories also participated in, sometimes forcibly so, sometimes voluntarily. That's what I learned this quarter. Who brutalized and murdered Jews both willingly and zealously. And they did so, moreover, not because they were coerced, for he shows irrefutably, so many were informed by their own commanders that they could refuse to kill without fear of retribution, not because they slavishly followed orders, not because of any tremendous social, psychological, or peer pressure to conform to the behavior of their comrades, and not for any reasons associated with Hannah Arendt's disputed notion of the banality of evil. They acted as they did because of widespread, profound, unquestioned, and virulent anti-Semitism that led them to regard the Jews as a demonic enemy whose extermination was not only necessary, but also just. And let's fix this and see what sources this guy uses. I should have checked that out. I have discovered I like certain ways that notes are done, and He does not have a bibliography, which can be kind of challenging. Anyway, this will also likely be a reference. The final two books are of a similar theme, and they are memoirs. The first is Dwight D. Eisenhower's Crusade in Europe. This is absolutely going to be up on my shelf in my office because this is going to be a fantastic reference in my opinion. Can't wait to dive into it. And finally, I am not a huge fan of Douglas MacArthur, but again, fantastic reference. His reminiscences. What? Anyway, also the other reason I bought it, to Billy, Christmas 1964, thought you might enjoy your own copy of this. I love finding writings in other books. This is obviously going to be Douglas MacArthur's memoir about his time in the Pacific. I want to show you another thing. Let me find it. It was Goebbels. It's the reason I bought this book. This also has writing in it. 12 October 07. Al, because I know how much you like Nazis! ! Have fun at school, Dan. I love it, love it, love it, love it when I come across little personal notes like that. I guess Al did not read this because or if he did, he's a more careful reader than I, because the spine isn't even cracked, and I crack my spines. It looks like it's been opened, but possibly not read unless, I don't know how you could read like this. I gotta crack my spine. Anywho, that is it for me. I may or may not be back next week. I'm gonna try to be back at least every other week during school because it's just a lot. I'm hoping that the next semester will get a little bit better. I say semester. Yes. The first quarter, first 6 weeks, 7 weeks was really challenging because at the end, your midterm exam and your final exam, it wasn't like a test. It was an essay writing thing. And so we had discussion points, say like 11 prompts, and you had to choose for the midterm, you chose 3, and then you responded to 3, so that's 6. Well, there's still 5 other prompts that we didn't write to. So for the midterm and the final, they randomly picked a prompt, and it could be one you'd already written to, or could be one you hadn't. So we were all trying to write, 11 essays, 500-word essays, and by a certain time. And I know that some of mine just were kind of half-assed because the first one picked one that I had not written about at all. The second one was one I thought I did okay on. It was a response, so I had changed the format of that. And then yesterday, my final, I got one that I wrote on and got a 90 on, and then a response that I worked really hard on that I hope turned into at least halfway decent thesis. Anyway, that is it for me. If you stuck with me this far, as always, thank you for sticking with me on my journey, and happy reading.